All right, what's good, YouTube world? Let me check to just make sure I'm live. Let's see. Says I'm not live quite yet. There we go. All right, good morning, everybody. It's about 6:30 Standard Pacific Time. And highly doubt anyone's up for a Gematria lesson this early in the morning, but oh man, I made about an hour long live stream yesterday morning that I totally screwed up. And I talked all about Mac Miller's death and how I believe it's connected to the evil deity Saturn. And if you're new to this channel, it wasn't intended this way, but now the bulk of my research is dedicated to Saturn worship and ritualistic sacrifice that my theory is the sole intention, because I've been doing a lot of research on Saturn worship and ritualistic magic. And this picture right here that you're looking at is taken from the book. It's called The Cult of the Black Cube, a Saturnian grimoire, and it is the Bible for Saturn worship. And holy cow, it is packed full of great information and really confirms a lot of the suspicions that I've been having regarding this murder by numbers research. And I did find a PDF on it, but to really fully understand what I talk about on this channel, you really need to go and research Saturn worship more and Saturn symbolism. And but there is a PDF for the Saturnian grimoire. I highly recommend you go and read it because it's going to blow your mind. But anyway, I want to talk about murder by numbers and Saturnian rituals and the death of this gentleman who died at the very young age of 26 in very suspicious circumstances. And I say suspicious because he was very successful and he died from a drug overdose. And I would argue that only people that are really down on their luck and depressed abuse drugs the way that they say some of these young people abuse drugs. But I would highly doubt someone like this gentleman, very talented, doesn't really sing about depressing things, very good outlook on life, very talented. Why would he be abusing alcohol, cocaine, and excuse me, fentanyl, which is just another fancy way of saying heroin? But yeah, let me get into the symbolism behind his death. And there's a thing called murder by numbers. And there's a song by the Police that came out in 1983 off the album Synchronicity. And murder in the language of Gematria equals 83. But more importantly, murder by numbers has value of 207, just like Saturnian ritual. And if you're not familiar with the term Saturnian, Saturnian just means relating to Saturn. All things relating to Saturn, much like Satanism is things relating to Satan. And Saturn worship and Satan worship are very much closely related. But to give you a little bit of context to this number, the gentleman that's known as Jim Morrison died 207 days from his 27th birthday. And he was found in a bathtub. And he died in Paris. In Paris, I'll show you, equals 27. Let me get rid of this Jewish. Let me make sure we're still live. Make sure you guys can see my screen properly, because last time I really meshed it up. Oh, what up, homie? I'm surprised you're awake. But yeah, you guys can see my screen. I know this homie has probably heard enough about this story, but I had to make a video completely dedicated to it. And but I want to show you the script. I'm going to show you of what a watered down version of a murder by numbers decode looks like. And this gentleman actually does really great work. He's a great editor, but I thought his decode for the Draco, the rulers, death was kind of watered down. And there's a very classical way of decoding murder by numbers, and that is associating the words that are associated with, you know, these rituals like murder, killing, death. They all have values of specific numbers that are documented over and over in these ritualistic murders. Like, for instance, so he's saying that he died 17 days, or he was stabbed 17 days from his birthday. So I'll actually show you. Let me see. So he goes, you know, Draco the ruler equals 71, just like Society of Jesus. But, you know, the common thing in this practice is to pinpoint all the blame on the Society of Jesus. But they're not the only group of people that pay homage to Saturn. And cultures all over the world, all throughout time, have worshiped Saturn. And, you know, he kind of just, you know, gives a very simple, watered down breakdown. And no disrespect to this homie. I just think there's, you know, so he makes the 17 connection. And that's fine and good, but there's a deeper layer of meaning behind these murder rituals. And you have to have kind of a little bit of understanding of ritualistic magic. And through my research, from what I'm understanding, is the purpose behind ritualistically sacrificing an individual is to invoke the power of the specific deity that you are trying to invoke. So if you're doing a Saturn sacrifice, you want to encode the numbers that are associated with the name of Saturn. So in this practice, I'll show you the words that are strongly associated with Saturn, and that's 93, 21, 69, and 42. And Draco was born in 93. But I want to show you the comment that I left for him, and he is very highly unlikely to comment to it because he follows the very classical way of decoding ritualistic murders. But let me read to you my comment. I wrote, to elaborate more on the Saturn symbolism, Draco was born in 93, and Saturn equals 93. And he was born on a date with 125 numerology. And this is a number that I talk a lot on my channel. And I think it's been mostly overlooked by the Gematria community. But just to give you a little context to that, Brian Jones, one of the founding members of the Rolling Stones, he was found dead at the bottom of his swimming pool 125 days after his 27th birthday. And he died in the year 1969. And like I mentioned, Saturn has value of 69. But I discovered that Saturnian sacrifice equals 125. Just like if you spell out 27 as a word, and the spelling out of numbers is very important to this practice. And well, when you spell out 27 as a word, it equals 125. And, you know, this gentleman, so he died on a date with 27 numerology. 9 plus 7 plus 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 8 equals 27. And like I said, spell 27 out as a word and you get the value of 125 in reverse ordinal. English Gematria, when you flip the alphabetic order in reverse and you make A the 26, you assign 26 to A, and you make Z or Z, depending on what part of the world you're from, you make Z1. So 27 equals 125. Just like Brian Jones was found dead at the bottom of a swimming pool 125 days after his 27th birthday. And look where Mac Miller's place of death was. Studio City, 125. And, you know, going back to Draco the ruler's stabbing, Draco in the most pure cipher equals 27. Draco 27, his surname Caldwell equals 27. And more importantly, ritual has value of 27. And these are murder rituals. So I hope I'm making it clear the deeper number ritual behind, just beyond the association with the kill words. So, which I hardly even will decode people's deaths now, because there's a whole other layer of these murder by number rituals, and that is to invoke the evil energy of Saturn to bring about changes in our world, which we experience every day. And we are living in a dark world. But, just to kind of summarize my decode of Draco the ruler. So he pointed out the fact that he was stabbed 17 days from his 28th birthday, but he didn't die until the early hours of the 19th, which would make it a span of 18 days from his 28th birthday. And Saturn is known as the timekeeper, or Father Time, or Lord of Time, or Lord of the Rings, whatever you want to call it. But a very important concept in ritual sacrifice to Saturn is time. And time equals 61. And 61 is the 18th prime number. Prime numbers are a very important concept to these rituals because they can only be divided by 1 in themselves. So 61 can only be divided by 1 in 61. And in numerology, the number 1 represents power. And I want you to think about the Lord of the Rings, the one ruling ring, Um, and, you know, in case you weren't aware, Saturn symbolism is all over the place. Now you can't unsee it once you've seen it, but, now I look at the Target. Every time I drive by Target, I see the Saturn symbolism, but Saturn worship is all over the place. And, I hate to talk about it so much, but, what else would there be to talk about? It's the most important god to the cult. But, time has value of 61, the 18th prime number, and Dracio's real name, Darrell Caldwell, equals 61. And the 19th, the day that he died, has numerology of 18. So he died on December 12th, 2021. So you reduce everything down from a single digit. 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 9 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1 equals 18. So, shout out to this homie. All I'm saying is that there's a deeper layer of meaning behind these ritualistic sacrifices. And people just don't sacrifice to associate kill words. You see what I mean? It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, to do something like that. But people need to learn to understand that these are ritualistic sacrifices. You sacrifice unto a god in order to invoke their power. So Saturn's not going to give you anything unless you offer up a sacrifice unto him, and you need to invoke his name. So you encode the numbers that are associated with his name. That's kind of how the basic ritualistic magic works. Let me see what's good with the homie. What's good? Yeah, man, it's like 6:40 here in the morning. But shout out to my homie Marvin. We be doing live streams. We be uncovering the truth every night. But, no, let me get into, and homie Marvin, you don't have to tune into this because I know you've probably heard it about 1,000,000 times, but, what I found interesting is that Murder by Numbers, it has this value of 207, just like Saturnian ritual. But what's interesting about that is the fact that 207 can be divided by 669 3 times. So you see right here, 207 divided by 69 is 3, and 3 is the first digit of pi. I've been speculating, is the circle or the ring have much more importance than, has this concept been overlooked? It's talked about, but, I'm arguing that, if you take into consideration the fact that the ring is a circle, is like the physical representation of a circle, and Saturn supposedly has rings. Think about the ring of Saturn. Like I said, the circle symbolism or the ring is all over the place. And every circle has pi encoded into it. If you divide the circumference, so the circumference is all the way around the circle, divided by the diameter, which is the diameter is the measurement that is straight across from the circle. You divide that, you'll always find the number pi. And pi is infinite. Pi goes on forever and ever, which is proof that the infinite exists. But I want to show you how how he has all the Saturn symbolism, which would be perfect for invoking Saturn because he's got the numbers encoded into him that are associated with Saturn. So Saturn equals 69. And you'll see here that his birthday, January 19th, 1992, was the day leaving 347 days in the year. And that's special. That's also special to this ritual because 347 is the 69th prime number. And what really caught my eye, I've seen decodes on his death, but what really caught my eye was the fact that his last studio album was released on January 17th, 2002, and it happened to be called Circles. And, this was all before I made, 4 or 5 videos talking about the importance of the circle to all these ritualistic murders and to Saturn worship. So I thought, wow, that could not be a coincidence to the fact that, he was murdered by the numbers, and then his last studio album is called Circles. And the release date for that album was January 17th, 2022. And Saturnian equals 117 in the oh-so special, the other symbol that is very important to Saturn worship. So you got the circle or the ring, but the black cube is also very sacred to Saturn worship. And the black cube of Saturn has value of 117. And here his 6th and last studio album was released on January 17th. And I don't know if I checked the numerology of that date, but go ahead and check that. Anyway, so getting back to the more Saturn symbolism associated with Mac Miller, his last studio album, Circles, equals 69, just like Saturn. And Miller alone, if you take away the Mac, so Mac is the title, and Miller would be his name. So there's significance with Miller spelled out all by itself. And lo and behold, it has matching value in English Gematria. So Circles, Miller, and Malcolm all equal 69, just like Saturn. And like I said, he's born on the 347th day, which is the 69th prime number. And you see how Circles also has value of 33, just like Miller in the Most Pure Cipher. He would pass 33 weeks from his 26th birthday. And Circles equals 33. And in case you've never heard of the Brotherhood of Saturn, which is a very famous, which is a very well-known magical order based out of Germany. And within that order, there are 33 degrees that you can ascend. So definitely research if you're into researching Saturn worship. The Brotherhood of Saturn is very significant. They're based out of Germany. And you could ascend 33 degrees. Just like he's dead 33 weeks after his 26th birthday. So they claim the powers that shouldn't be claim that he died of an accidental drug overdose. And I want you to see, so Saturnian alone has this value of 36. And I want you to think about how there's 360 degrees in a ring or a circle. So Saturnian in the most pure cipher equals 36, but when you flip that cipher around and you make the letter A, you make the letter A 26. So the cipher applies the rules of numerology. It's an alphabetic order, but with the rules of numerology. You make A 26, so you reduce that down to a single digit. 2 plus 6 equals 8. In that cipher, Saturnian has value of 63, the reflection of 36. And Saturnian ritual equals 63, just like Saturnian. And it also has value of 108. And that reminds me a lot of the number 18 or the number 181. And half of a circle is 180 degrees. But most importantly, look at the matching values of drug overdose with Saturnian ritual and Saturnian. Drug overdose is 63 forwards and backwards. So fitting cause of death for one big Saturn ritual. But what I found crazy is the fact that in the satanic cipher, which makes A 36 and Z 61, and I want you to think about, the 360 degrees in a circle, and then time, the fact that, the reason why Z is assigned 61 is because time equals 61. So it's got, I would argue that this cipher, and I talk a lot about how Satanism and Saturnianism are one and the same, just a little bit different. Satanism is Saturn worship in disguise. Not in disguise, but circles equals 314 in that those are the first three digits of pi. 3.141 and into infinity. So, I've been documenting pi is a very important concept in Saturn rituals. Think about the rings of Saturn, which is known as the Lord of the Rings. And like I said, 360 degrees, take away the zeros have no spiritual power. You're left with 36. Saturnian equals 36. And when you add 1 through 36, so you go 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8, all the way up to 36, you're left with a value of 666. And I want you to think about how 666 is always associated with evilness, just like Saturn. So it really makes you wonder. And I would argue that, that's the root of 666. That's what it means. And I've never been satisfied with people's explanation by saying, well, it's the number of man. And keep in mind, everything in the Bible has been written by man. So you can't take anything literally. But, the explanation for 666, the typical explanation is the fact that, man was made on the sixth day. And in the Bible, in Revelation 13:18, it does say it is the number of man. But, I would argue that if you study sacred geometry, you would understand that the circle is, very important. You know, they say it's the language of consciousness, and you know, consciousness, did man stem from consciousness? So I would argue that 666 is the number of Saturn because a ring has 666 encoded into it because of the 360 degrees. And Saturn is known as the evil deity. So 360 degrees in a circle. Like I said, Saturnian alone in the most pure cipher equals 36. I got to keep an eye on the time because I can't let this live stream go too long. But like I said, there's different ways to look at this ritual. He's dead on 9/7, which is a lot like 97. And death equals 97. 97 is the 25th prime number. And death also equals 27. But, that's just one way of looking at it. And, he's also dead on a date with 25 numerology if you don't include the century. And then, there's a 25. That's good, but that's the first layer of it. You associate the words associated with death, but you want to do things that are associated with the name of Saturn in order to invoke that evil energy. And you see the 27, that's where the symbolism for Saturn comes in. And he's dead on a date with, I always talk about this, the association between 125 and the number 27. Because when you spell out 27 as a word, it equals 125. And here he is dead in Studio City, value of 125. Saturnian sacrifice, 125. But to add more to the Saturn symbolism, you see how he's dead 231 days from his 26th birthday. And I want you to keep in mind, he's 26, but he's in his 27th year of his age. So for example, when you're born, you're not 1 year old yet, but once you complete 1 year, so when you're born, you're in your first year. And then when you turn 1, you begin your second year. So when you turn 2, it marks the completion of your second year. You see how that works? So, he's 26, but he is in his 27th year. But you see the 231? That's the 21st triangular number. And I talked about how 666 is the 36th triangular number. So when you add 1 through 21, you get a value of 231. And why I think that's significant in this ritual is because the black cube equals 231. And Saturn in the most pure cipher equals 21. But what I also found interesting is that when you spell 3 out as a word, which is the first digit of pi, and anyone who's familiar with Gematria knows how special the number 56 has become in our recent existence. But when you spell out 3 as a word, it has value of 56. But the relevance in this ritual would be the fact that, with the pi symbolism and 3 being the first digit of pi, in the satanic cipher, or, you could call it the Saturn cipher, has value of 231. And here he is dead 231 days from his 26th birthday. Like I mentioned, circles equals 33. But here's an excerpt from the title track off that album, Circles. And one of the lines, it says, "It's getting pretty late, it's getting pretty late. I find it goes around like the hands that keep counting the time, drawing circles." And Saturn is known as the Lord of Time or Father Time. Also call him the ruler of the zodiac, that Saturn rules over all the other celestial bodies, and we use those celestial bodies to keep time. You know, we use the sun, you know, to count the days in the year and the time in the day and all that. And, you know, they say Saturn rules over, I think it would be safe to say that Saturn rules over the sun and all the other celestial bodies. But isn't it interesting how he has this reference to time in light of all the other Saturn symbols that I've been talking about? It's just very ominous. It's a weird way of talking. I have no idea if he wrote this song, but, you know, I mean, what are the odds in light of everything else I've been talking about? The fact that his last studio album is called Circles and has value at 33, and he died 33 weeks from his birthday. I already talked about that. And I got to talk about this before it happens because I want to document it. And I want you to see how Post Malone has birth numerology of 125. And he's born on Independence Day in 1995, but he's approaching his 27th birthday. And like I talked earlier about in the video, Draco the ruler has birth numerology of 125. Let me show you in that same way. So Draco the ruler was born December 1st in 93. You see? If you reduce everything down, not from a single digit, so you keep the full value, so 12 plus 1 plus 19 plus 93 equals 125. And, you know, Draco equals 27. Caldwell, his surname, 27. And here he is stabbed to death. So it makes me wonder, this homie needs to watch out. He also has, you know, the 7-4 or 4/7 birthday. I want you to see killing equals 74. And time equals 47. Saturn, the Lord of Time. But, you know, 74, very important to ritualistic murder because Gematria equals 74, which these rituals are designed with. In Gematria, the practice of encoding numbers into words. Gematria 74, killing 74, English 74. So, homie Post Malone needs to watch his back because he's approaching that very special number of 27. Think about the 27 Club. But Post Malone. But I also want you to see that Ariana Grande, who was supposedly in a relationship with Mac Miller at the time of his death, she was born in 93. Saturn equals 93. But I want you to see, you see how her birth numerology, if you reduce it down from a single digit, you get a value of 36, but it also has value of 125. If, you know, you don't add the century, you don't add the 19, you go 6 plus 26 plus 93 equals 125. So, you know, perfect person for him to be supposedly dating at the time of his supposed overdose. Oh, yeah. Something I forgot to add one more 27. Overdose alone equals 103. And that's the 27th prime number. Just like he died on a date with 27 numerology. And the Russian spam bots are here as usual. If anyone who's ever live streamed like that, you know that the Russian bots show up. And I'm going to conclude by just briefly talking about the death of this gentleman, and shout out to the homie Marvin from Truth Click Media. And we decoded his death in a live stream that we did on my channel. And he's been talking a lot about Project Pogo and Project Zyphr. And he mentioned the fact that Dave Goldberg was murdered for exposing Project Zyphr. But I want to show you my interpretation of his death, and I want to show you, you know, the same old numbers that I've been documenting on this channel. The same old pattern of numbers that are associated with these very suspicious deaths. And if you're a Gematria decoder, you know, suspicious death just means murder number, a murder ritual. But I want you to see how Goldberg equals 38. And like I said, if it's a ritualistic sacrifice, it wouldn't make sense to just associate the numbers with the murder, with words that are associated with murder. So murder, killing, death. But a big part of invoking energy is associating the value of a number, like I've been saying. So you associate the numbers that are associated with Saturn with the person that you're sacrificing. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to just do a murder ritual and just have, you know, just go murder. Well, David Goldberg equals 38 and murder equals 38. But I discovered that, you know, because Saturn is known as the timekeeper, I discovered, you know, I don't think anyone's been looking at the value of timekeeper, and timekeeper is a real word. And, you know, I've heard it called throughout the years that Saturn is just known as the keeper of time without realizing, okay, there's an actual word for that. And it's called the timekeeper. And I discovered that timekeeper equals 163, and that's the 38th prime number. Just like Goldberg equals 38. But, you know, something else that I discovered is that, you know, a very popular concept is Saturnian death cult, which is very well documented in occult research. Saturnian death cult equals 211. Just like the timekeeper. So the timekeeper alone is 163, but with the, which would, you know, it's how you would refer to him, the timekeeper equals 211, just like Saturnian death cult. And I'll show you why that's significant, because he died 211 days from his 47th birthday. And 211 is the 47th prime number. You say how he's also dead on May Day, May 1st, which is the date that the Order of Illuminati was founded. An Order of Illuminati equals 93, just like Saturn. But May 1st is also a date that can be written 5/1. And, this guy is associated with Project Zyphr, which has sparked a lot of conspiracy theories. And conspiracy theory equals 51. But getting back to the 47, he's dead at the age of 47. And strangely, he was married to the COO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg. And Sandberg alone, so she was with him at the time of his death, and they were in Mexico at a resort, and he died in the incident may have happened somewhere else, but he died. He was pronounced dead. It was made official in Nuevo Vallarta. Has value of 47 in the most pure cipher, just like Sandberg, his wife at the time, equals 47. And I would not be surprised if she was the mastermind behind this ritual. But you see how, his date of death is the 121st day of the year. In blood sacrifice equals 121. In Saturnine equals 121. And Saturnine, just like Saturnian, is, things that are pertaining to Saturn. And I highly recommend, if you don't understand these terms, that you go and read The Cult of the Black Cube, a Saturnian grimoire. That's another thing I forgot to add in there, but a Saturnian grimoire, the Satan worship Bible, has value of 211. You see? It's also 113 in the cipher with the rules of numerology, but flipped in reverse. And the Brotherhood of Saturn equals 113. You see? So Saturnine 121, just like blood sacrifice 121, and he's dead on the date. That is the 121st day of the year. But, shout out to my homie Marvin. I think we had been misspelling the word Zyphr. But if you read that article that you referenced, this is how they spell it. And we were spelling it with the U, which gives you a value of 201. No, when you go project, maybe there's multiple spellings for this. Project Zyphr. But the way it's referenced, another way it's referenced is without the U, and that has value of 93. Tying in perfectly to his place of death, which has value of 93. And Saturn equals 93. Let me show you just in case someone's watching that's never seen this, which I highly doubt it. Saturn equals 93 and 69. But I want you to also see that, conspiracy theorist also equals 93, just like Zyphr, and just like Mexico, his place of death. And Project Zyphr is now the topic of very many different conspiracy theories. But a term that I learned from reading The Cult of the Black Cube, a Saturnian grimoire, was the fact that Saturnine Gnosis, which basically means Saturn knowledge, a term, which is a big focus of the book, Saturnine Gnosis also equals 69 and 93. And you also see the 201 that's been documented again and again and again by other Gematria researchers. So I thought, I mean, what are the odds, like such an important term to Saturn worship, that it has value of 201? And the common association is the Society of Jesus equals 201. No, I'm sorry. It is the Jesuit order equals 201. Just like Saturn Gnosis is 201 and 69. And, you know, the Jesuit order, they're wearing the black robes, which is associated with Saturn worship. And in the book, he talks about wearing a black robe during a ceremony when you're trying to invoke Saturn. And what else has value of 201 is Saturn worship. And we saw back in January 15th of this year, I said look out for a big Saturn ritual because it falls on a Saturday. It also had numerology of 38. Timekeeper equals 38, but it was the 75th year anniversary of Elizabeth Short's murder, and Elizabeth Short equals 75 and 69. And here we got the big hostage situation at the congregation Beth Israel. You'll see you hostage equals 75, just like Elizabeth Short equals 75. Congregation Beth Israel. But what are the odds of that, you get this hostage situation at Beth Israel, and the Black Dahlia was known to go by Beth Short, and Beth Short equals 115, just like the date of the hostage situation. And her body was discovered mutilated and cut in half with all the blood drained out on January 15th. I want you to see killing equals 115. And why I think that number is so important to Saturn, you see killing also equals 115 in Jewish, but Saturn equals 511, the reflection of 115. So that's my theory behind why Colleyville, when you spell it right, but where the hostage situation took place in Colleyville, Texas. See, Colleyville, Texas equals 201, just like Saturn worship. And you see how Colleyville, Texas equals 231. I was just talking about how Mac Miller died 231 days from his 26th birthday, and the black cube of Saturn equals 231. So, it's not hard to predict once you know the repetitive patterns, and these people are obsessed with the concept of time and cycles and things that repeat over and over again. And that's exactly how they operate, much like the numbers of a clock. It's the same numbers over and over again. And you see how Texas equals 69, just like Saturn. It also equals 15, just like it would happen on the 15th day of the year. But no surprise, this guy definitely died under suspicious circumstances with all the Saturn symbolism. And what's interesting is David Bruce Goldberg, his full name equals 102, the reflection of 201. And Dave Goldberg alone, without his middle name, and, Dave is short for David. David Goldberg also equals 102. Think about how they say the September 11th attacks lasted for 102 minutes. In the year 2001, which is a hell of a lot like the number 21 or 201. So think about, 9/11 happened in 2001, and then we get event 201, and Saturn equals 21. 21 is not prime. But yeah, I think I'll end it right there, but I'll end it by talking a little bit more about the cult of the black cube. And it's a really awesome book, and I highly recommend it if you want to learn more. See right here, this edition has the seal of Saturn. And something I haven't talked about too much is the magic cube of Saturn, which is interesting. Let me just briefly, I'm sorry, not the magic cube, but the magic square. So the magic square of Saturn. When you spell it right. Solomon, Saturn, Jupiter. Each planet is assigned with its own magic square. But Saturn, Saturn has nine squares, 9 cubes in its square, and each row equals 15. And think about how I talked about how January 15th, the 15th day of the year, is such a big day for Saturn rituals. So the magic square of Saturn, which is a very similar concept to what, encoding numbers into words and then planning out ritualistic sacrifices according to that encoding. But it's the same concept with a magic square of Saturn. And it's basically these values of the square are associated with the values of the words associated with Saturn in Hebrew. And I don't really fully understand that quite yet, because a lot of it has to do with Hebrew. But it's the same concept like I was talking about, my theory about ritualistic sacrifices, how you would do the same thing, is you would encode numbers into the ritual that are associated with Saturn in order to invoke him. You see the circle right here, the circle of the zodiac. It's represented in a 360 degree circle. And some people say Saturn is the ruler of all the celestial bodies. I don't know how true that is, but it's just something I've read across my research. But magic squares, I'm starting to learn more about it. I'm incorporating it into my research. We see right here, here's the Brotherhood of Saturn symbol. The Brotherhood of Saturn has it's got the triangle with the circle on it, and the astrological symbol for Saturn, which is the cross, and the sickle, or the sheath, the Grim Reaper instrument. And they say when you fold out a square or a cube, think about the black cube of Saturn. When you fold out a cube, it unfolds to a cross. Let me look up unfolding the cube. And think about how we celebrate the birth of Jesus around the time when the pagans celebrate Saturn. And one of the most popular ancient Roman festivals was in tribute to the evil deity. See if I could find a gif of the cube unfolding into a cross. No, I don't think it's going to do it. Here's a good one. But yeah, you know, the cross, another important, I don't know if as important as the circle or the cube, but, you know, it makes you wonder, why do we celebrate the birth of Jesus around the time when other people celebrate Saturn? So yeah, I think I'm going to end the stream there. Shout out to homie Marv. We'll be live streaming later, that's for sure. But yeah, definitely check out Saturn worship. Check out the Cult of the Black Cube. Read it. You're going to be blown away. You could find a PDF version, or you could try to find the hard copy, which, from what I understand, is very hard to find. But yeah, it's getting pretty late. It's getting pretty late. You know, it's about 7:24 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And all right, guys, have a great day.